Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. No camera?
And we are live and on the air, people. We're live and on the air. We're getting organized.
Hey.
This is kind of an impromptu,
I'm here very limited.
completely unplanned hangout. But I did find, even though it wasn't planned, in about a couple hours, I found a bazillion stories we can talk about. And joining me tonight, we have Justin, not Justin Jackson, who is down in Disney World with his family, but Canadian Justin.
Hey, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me again, guys. Had a blast last week. I'm ready to have fun again this week.
Well, if you really had a couple of very good points last week. I have no clue what they were with my memory, but
you and me both. You and me both.
And we also have bouncing baby Chelsea and Pamela. How you doing, Pamela and Chelsea? You know what? Pretty soon, I've been saying it's Pamela and Chelsea, and pretty soon I'm going to have to say Chelsea and Pamela.
Chelsea. Just say Chelsea. Chelsea's in the house.
She's taking over.
And seeing we're having an early hangout, only 8 p.m. here in Connecticut, Ulysses is joining us.
I'm
How
here.
You doing, Ulysses?
I do exist.
He's here, he thinks.
I'm
We're in
here.
the house, but he's hanging out in his apartment.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Until I can get set up, get the home studio going.
It's great that we don't have to do this at 4 a.m. again.
Yeah, 4 a.m.'s rough.
It is, especially when you work at 7.
Come on.
Like,
Are you guys a couple of wusses?
I haven't brushed my hair, I haven't brushed my teeth, and no makeup, so too early for me.
Oh, well.
But I am
You're beautiful. You're naturally, what are they? You're naturally beautiful. You don't need that.
Ah, you're sweet, but you're a liar. Yeah, no, I am. I'm wearing deodorant, not that you can smell, but I feel better knowing that I smell it.
I'm proud that you're wearing deodorant.
Thank you, yeah.
It's a step in the right direction for a day.
Some days, like as a mom, you know, you're rushing around making sure the baby's alright, and then I get to the end of my day and I'm like, oh my god, what deodorant?
Always keep some in your bag.
Yeah.
All right. I will put links for Patrick in the chat area.
Patrick, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm on.
Yay! Hey, Patrick.
Hey.
So
Okay.
It's too early.
There you go. Too early.
Everyone's a critic.
I can't help it that I actually have to work early. Now I have a 5-day-a-week job instead of a 4-day-a-week job.
Yeah.
I'd much prefer a 4-day work job.
I do too, but I don't have that luxury.
Okay. Let's get the science show on the road. At least one story. We can talk about anything you guys want. This, I've screen shared it, hopefully, is a neat little device. And that little device, which is a lung on a chip, or a model of a lung on a chip, is the kind of thing that hopefully will put an end to animal testing. And even for humans, I think, if we can go to computer-generated models, things like this, we may not even have to test our, new medicines on humans. And this was developed by the Weiss Institute of Biologically Inspired Engineering. And it won Design of the Year by the London's Design Museum. It's lined with living human cells. The organs on a chip mimic the tissue structure and mechanical motions of human organs, promising to accelerate drug discovery, decrease development costs, and potentially usher in a future of personalized medicine. And, well, this is the curator of the Museum of Modern Art in New York City and said this is the epitome of design innovation. Removing some of the pitfalls of human and animal testing means theoretically that drug trials could be conducted faster and their viable results disseminated more quickly. And these micro devices are recreating the tissue interface of human organs inside a transparent polymer chip, so the behaviors of bacteria, drugs, and human white blood cells can be easily monitored through a microscope. A tiny channel runs through the middle, divided along its length by porous membrane, with human lung cells on one side and blood capillary side cells on the other. By running air through one side and a blood-like solution through the other, while applying a flexing and stretching motion using a vacuum. That chip can be simulate the process of breathing, and organs on a chip allow us to see biological mechanisms and behaviors that no one knew existed before. This is Dan Ingber of the TWIS Institute. We now have a window on the molecular scale activities going on in human organs, including things that happen in human cells that don't occur in animals. Most drug companies can get completely different results in dogs, cats, humans, and mice, but now we will be able to test specific effects of drugs with greater accuracy and speed. We won't be able to model consciousness or the effect of gravity on our joints, but the next step is developing a truly personalized medicine. A drug can be tested on your lung and your brain, not a dog, and the average person doing a trial.
All right, I'm ready for it.
There we go. And I will stop there.
Well, that's just one more step closer to extended our lifespan, isn't it? It'll help cure specific diseases. But I'm sure, like, it's going to cost more money, though. I think, initially only the really wealthy will be able to afford this kind of treatment, right, Ed?
No.
You don't think so?
I don't think so.
Because you have to have a sample tissue of your lungs and your blood, and then they can test this to see if you have a reaction to whatever drugs now, right?
Well, the first thing is, you got to have medical insurance. If you lived as long as I have, you got Social Security, you got Medicare. And so, as long as you've got health insurance coverage, I'm guessing health insurance will want to pay for these kinds of tests and this kind of a device because it's going to save money in the long run.
But we're talking individualized care. I mean, it's good.
And somebody's going to make buckets of money out of it.
That's what I know. I don't see it being cheap, though. I mean, somebody's going to have to pay.
I think it's like anything. In the beginning, only the people who have the money are going to be able to afford it. But over time, as the prices get down, innovation happens, it'll trickle down and more people will be able to afford it. The best example would be the Tesla electric cars. Right now, you can get a model for $40,000, which is still really expensive, but 5 years ago, they were $100,000. So over the next maybe 5, 10, 15 years, kind of the stock baseline model.
You're looking at, but they're currently $75,000.
Oh, are they? Okay. Well, I guess I was thinking of they were talking about having a cheaper.
They're not released yet for the $40,000 one.
Yeah. But I guess long story short, as time goes on, they get cheaper as more people buy them. So hopefully that'll happen with a lot of this new medical technology.
And hopefully we'll design a drug catered specifically to us that won't make us too addicted to it, but make us feel really good. How's that?
The primary benefit I can see is just reducing that phase where right now you try it out on a mouse. Works on the mouse, you expand it, and then maybe you go to human trials, and then the human trial works, and then you have to go to a drug company who can make a bunch of money off it, and it might be 10 years from the point where you do your mouse study, and then you have the medicine available to the public. Something like this has got to speed up that process. It's got to tell us
Yeah,
much
we'll
more.
now be able to test drugs on mouse tissue to cure the mice instead of testing drugs on the mice to cure the mice.
Well, you know what? I think we're going to bypass the mice. I like that lung.
I hope so.
But I think what they
mice.
should actually do is do what I just said to test out and see if it actually works.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. Got to test it out first.
I'm all in favor of not torturing mice anymore. James Patterson wrote a book called Animals, and they're making a TV show out of it. I'm guessing that's where the animals finally get enough of human race. Right, Patrick?
Sure.
Take us all out.
I don't know, Ulysses. I don't know. You want to test some possible death-causing drug? You want to test it out on mice first? Or you want to test it out on humans?
Humans!
I can tell you, I'm going out with the mice.
A life is a life.
And I have my toddler theory. I've not been able to prove it, but I suspect it's true. Well, Pamela's not here to even talk about it.
So what?
I have a toddler theory. They're masterminds.
I know your toddler theory. They're evil.
They're evil. I'm telling you, they're out to rule the world.
My toddler niece and nephew aren't evil. Maybe my nieces, but my nephew's not evil. As far as I can tell.
Mostly, I mean, not all of them. I say there's some exceptions. I mean, because, you can't say everything.
Man, if my brother would put videos of my nephew up on YouTube, they would have had like 6 million hits by now, and he was paid for his college. But no, they're too private. Don't post anything.
We live in a social network now. Everything's social.
I know. They get paid for being cute and funny, but no, they won't do it.
Oh, Pamela.
Pamela, she's got her baby up behind every day.
Almost
Every week.
almost a toddler. I tell her to look out.
Well,
He's a
Pamela, you've documented Chelsea's life on Facebook, on
I don't know about
Twitter.
that.
And we've seen her grow.
Even get 10% of that. No, I send her emails. She's got an email address that I set up when I found out I was pregnant. So I tell her everything so she can read it all later.
Do you mind asking where you hosted that?
I'm not telling anyone where it's hosted. No.
I'm sure the Chinese have hacked it.
Okay,
right
is
now.
it a major company that people get their email from, or are you hosting it privately?
Private.
Okay, is that privately hosted email backed up to an off-site server?
Yeah, it's all sorted. I know people.
All right.
China's hacked it. Sure of it.
The Chinese have hacked it.
They can't read
It's private.
English, but they've hacked
Yeah.
it.
What you
it's
should
funny.
do, Pamela, what you should do is hook it up to a printer that prints out the email every time you send it. That way it's a hard copy.
Ooh.
Yeah,
You
well,
could just do that normally, actually.
Why don't you just type up a letter and just print it out?
because we travel too much.
We have handwriting stuff now.
I can't do everything.
You do move a lot, right?
Yeah, I've got a 20.
You're like a CIA operative. You never stick around very long in one spot. I think that's what it is.
So do you only write her emails when she's been naughty, so you can chastise her later in life?
Today, you tried to stab me with a knife. I will remember this.
No, I write her emails all the time about little things.
Didn't you ever see Stewie? Toddlers are evil. I'm telling you. Patrick, I miss your video feed.
All right.
Oh, you're saying about privacy and that. We were originally
Oh, there he is. I can see him.
not going to have
You can't even see me.
on the internet. We actually
There we
agreed people were born, she was born and all that, but we'd keep it private and make it her decision later. And while I was still unconscious from the cesarean operation, my husband put pictures up. And I woke up about 6 hours later, and it was just, oh, well. And it's weird. Everyone's different, but we want to display them and have people go, oh my gosh, she's so cute. And you're like, ah, thanks. And as if you could do anything about it, because it's all genetic, and it's not like you achieved anything. All you did was have sex 9 months ago, right? But it's a really prideful thing. Yeah, I want people to look at her and go, oh, she's so smart, she's so cute, you know. So that's, and if she hates me later, well, I'm sure she can get plastic surgery and change her features.
Oh.
If she wants to hide.
She can get plastic surgery? Oh, that's a great...
No, to
that's
hide.
my fallback. That's my plan B. I'll get plastic surgery.
Now she's attacking your face because she doesn't like your comment.
I told you they're evil and they're smart.
Oh, she is smart. She's smarter than me.
See, like, it's the Australian version of 7-Up. But it's 7-1.
What's that?
7-Up is a British documentary.
That's
They
your dog,
take
I
turns in
believe. Just gonna guess.
That's a canine companion.
That's the biggest dog we have. She's 70 pounds.
Not gonna do any
70
testing on him, right? Or her.
No. You test my baby. She's so cute. Look at that.
Oh.
Test my baby. I talk baby talk to my dog.
Okay, now that we've digressed slightly, Pamela, I've already made an observation about how Ulysses, buying his new home, closing today, instead of having a night out of town with his wife, took a nap. And Pamela,
I did not
just
take a nap.
happened to notice on Facebook you were talking about your old clothing you wanted to get, your old skanky clothing, you know, bad Pamela, bad Pamela.
The skanky clothing.
I don't know, Pamela. I'm gonna guess here. Middle age has climbed up and bit you on the butt, I think. I think you're middle-aged Pamela now.
She is not middle-aged.
Yeah, I'm middle-aged, if anything.
Mommy Pamela.
Yeah, Ulysses is middle-aged.
I'm
Pamela's not.
42.
I have some clothes, and I thought, well, would I let my daughter wear them? And the answer's no. So maybe I shouldn't.
Pamela's only
Now,
slightly
come
older
on
than
now.
me.
When your daughter becomes like 28, she's like, those old things? I'm not putting those on.
It's some things, but some of it's just, it's scary. And it's for picking and
Come on, the older I get, the more I'm like, oh my gosh, this was so cool. And like, kids will look at you like, are you an alien?
Ed,
I don't need
Ed,
to pick
30s are the new 20s, haven't you heard?
30s.
I believe that as much as
40s are the new 30s.
yes, and 70s the new 50.
It is. It so is.
Tell that to my knees. Tell that to my back.
Yeah.
The 20s are the new teens.
Bee venom will help with that.
And the teens are the new toddlers.
Ooh. Toddlers are evil.
Teens are evil. I know. I was once one.
we were all.
Oh, yeah, I found my diaries from my teenage years.
There are those who claim never to have been a kid, and I'm like, you are a moron.
I'm still a kid. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm still a kid.
I just don't need them anymore. So if other skanks out there want to put them to use, otherwise they're just going to get eaten by moths, you know.
That's why you gotta store them in cedar aroma something.
Yeah, I know, I do, but I can't always get back to my container to refresh them because you've got to put new ones in every 6 months.
Cedar chest.
Actually, you just have to sand them.
Mothballs. Hey Ed,
Yes.
Patrick has named an island, or claimed an island for us.
I have virtually claimed an island.
He has virtually claimed an island.
Saw the link.
Sorry.
Alright, we'll go through.
Why we still want to live on an island that would get swallowed
Because
up by
it's
the
volcanic, we get free energy.
or blow up?
Not necessarily. Right now, it's just making a bigger island.
We can put solar panels up. That's free energy.
No, because you gotta pay for the solar panels. Mind you, you'd have to pay for the geothermal conversion unit, but...
Wait a minute. We still have to convert heat to energy, no matter what we do.
Yeah,
so
but
it's a barren volcanic rock.
It's barren.
It's filled with bird droppings, feathers, and bits of food. 2.45 square kilometers. That's remote, I'll give you that. And yes, it does have lava. Okay, lava.
I have 2 dogs now. Look. They're my dogs.
That means it's probably growing, probably getting higher every year if it's got an open lava source.
Still growing.
So it's still not quite safe.
And I had a couple of stories about human embryos, and we're talking about babies.
Babies?
You know what? I know Pamela probably
As safe as a baby is.
loves all the time she spent with baby poop and baby vomit, etc. But you know, maybe that you got Ulysses. Maybe he wouldn't mind having a child if it didn't have to go through the whole toddler stage. So what do? You go to GMO. You genetically edit, you know, that human embryo, and you speed up how fast it can grow, and bang, there you got yourself an instant kid.
We had a show on TV called Dark Angel that addressed that problem. Grew right up and become super soldiers.
No, you just adopt, so you skip all that.
Yeah, just adopt.
That's true. That's true.
It's easier that way. It's cheaper too. But then they're gonna have some. They're all gonna be messed up no matter what. You would still need that developmental phase of life, I would think.
Why not just get a cat or a dog? Doesn't that just solve everything?
I mean, look, I got 2 right
Cats
here.
and dogs are just retarded people.
They're toddlers that can't talk.
Exactly. And that's really all you need, isn't it?
And they don't have prehensile thumbs where they can stab you with a knife like a toddler can.
Some cats do have opposable thumbs.
No, but they do have teeth.
Well, see, they do bite. I'm telling you, toddlers are evil.
Hey, Ulysses.
You want to talk about
just for you, I'm going to talk about the bees.
Talk about the bees, yay.
Big stories about bees. Our friends in Oslo, Norway, they're creating the bee highway. All right.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about the ones that died over the winter.
Always the happy story, Ulysses. You always want to go for the happy story. I can see that.
You end on the happy story. You start on the sad story.
I've got good news and bad news. What do you want to hear first? Bad news.
Bad news. Bad news is you got to work.
What's the good news? I have 2 positions open.
Well, I'm going to start. Actually, that second story isn't all bad news either. But first, we got it. There you go. There's a picture, you guys. Hopefully you can see. And it's a beehive, and it's the part of the bee highway. From flower emblazoned cemeteries to rooftop gardens and balconies, Norway's capital Oslo is creating a bee highway to protect endangered pollinators essential to food production. We are constantly reshaping our environment to meet our needs, forgetting that other species also live in it. Agnes Lynch McLeaver, head of BYBI, an environmental support group supporting our friends, the urban bees. To correct that, we need to return places to them to live and feed. With sunflowers, marigolds, and other nectar-bearing flowers planted by bee-loving locals and school children. Abel's garden was until recently covered only in grass, but is now a floral feeding station for the bees. Oslo's bee highway aims to give the insects a safe passage through the city, lined with relays, providing food and shelter. And the first such system in the world, according to the organizers. Participants in the project, they got state bodies, they got companies, they got associations, they got private individuals, they got everybody behind it. Well, at least they're inviting them to post their contributions online. Uh-oh. Post your contributions, everybody. Might be a little kink in that. I don't know. Anyway, this is a 12th floor ultramodern office building in the district, the capital's Czech district on the edge of the Oslo fjord. And it's a major accounting firm, and there they got their little bee highway thing. It houses some 45,000 worker bees, busily unaware of their smart-suited office counterparts enjoying their lunch just meters away. You know, if they got sweet stuff for lunch, I don't think their bees are going to be ignoring them for very long. Oh, I don't know.
All right, trivia question, guys. Are worker bees male or female?
Female.
They're male.
Male?
Wrong.
Okay.
Female.
No, maybe
Female.
female. That's right.
The queen bee has to add, is it royal jelly or something, to the egg in order for it to produce a male?
Got me.
Something like that.
And they
Sounds familiar.
kill off the suitor, I'm sure. But there, haven't we like bred the European honeybee into this problem? Because like there's native bees here and other species like
I got stung by a bee
Wasp.
the other day.
A bee or a yellow jacket?
Probably a yellow jacket. But
Yeah, bees are not. I walk through bees every day.
I didn't see it at all. I was carrying a computer, and all of a sudden, whack! Just minding my own business. And
So we need to kill.
sting me.
So we need to kill the bees now.
We need to
No.
be more careful.
Before the
I've never actually gotten stung by a bee before. I've never experienced that kind of a sting before. I was like, what the hell was that? That hurt more than normal.
I've been hit by a mud dauber too.
Isn't there a therapy, and I don't know if it's beautification or what the heck it is, where people let themselves be stung by bees to get the bee toxin in them or something?
Yeah, that there was something back in early 2000s, like this, the serum in bees relax. I don't know. It killed some. Gosh, I can't remember. See, now my memory is going bad.
Or something.
All I know is honey's good, and if you take like peanut butter and put honey on it, it's even better.
Oh, dude, that's what I've been having every day when I'm coming home from work.
It's
I open
awesome.
a jar of peanut butter, I drip the honey in it, and then I eat the whole thing. It's
I mean,
so
it must
good.
be like 7,000 calories, but it was wonderful.
Justin, were you trying to make a comment?
No, I was just saying perhaps we need to be more careful.
Okay, I think maybe we
puns
might
allowed.
want to mute Justin for a while.
That was
I
funny.
don't know.
No, that was hilarious. So, did we ever talk about politics anymore, or is it just strictly science?
Good grief! You want to talk about bees? I gave you a good.
Well, that
I'm
was-
going to give you the opportunity to talk about bee deaths. How's that for an exciting
be
story,
best.
Ulysses?
Well, that's so sad.
That's right up your alley.
That's comes from overbreeding, and now they've got parasites, and so we're gonna have to come up with some sort of.
That's not overbreeding. That's
Well, there's no natural defense for their mites and parasites or whatever. Parasites, I don't know. We just need to come up with something that'll kill the mites and the parasites. That'll help the bees out. But
no. You just gotta give them more places to go.
well, they're just overbred. They're inbred. European honeybees are inbred. Their DNA isn't as diverse as
Tell that to the
North
bees.
American
dude.
bee.
Tell that to the bees. They're the one breeding.
Yeah, this is a study. This is from the British Beekeepers Association,
Mm-hmm.
and I followed their surveys over the last few years. And well, first, there in 2014, last winter's bee loss, it was higher than the previous year, by about 14%, but a lot lower than 2012 when 30% of the bees died off. And there's a chart. So you can see it's kind of all over the map. You can see that 33% in 2012. Way back in 2007, it was 30%. So it's really, I would say, it's been down. The trend is more down than up.
Well, wait a minute. You've had less to kill the following year because you've killed so many the previous year. It's harder to kill more when you don't have as many.
Not true.
Is that
Not true.
That was good.
One of the problems, and reading, and this is the English beekeepers, reading it is you have more amateur beekeepers. And, you know, pollutants and everything aside, one of the problem is you have these amateur beekeepers. They think it's real cool to get some hives, make their own honey. They don't know what they're doing. They don't take care of the bees in wintertime. And what happens? The bees die off.
Well, I had a friend, she started her own hive, but they didn't even make it to winter because they had that, what is it, where they leave the hive, the chronic wasting.
Heard of it, don't know what they call it.
But you know when they just disintegrate, the hive just disappears, falls apart.
That's called going home.
Daughter.
Going home.
As we all learned from Doctor Who, the bees are just going home.
Just going. Or what is it? The whales swimming, or the dolphins leaving. It was a good run. Thank you for the fish. Oh my gosh. Nobody read the book.
The dolphins are coming back on land.
You're thinking of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Galaxy, yes. That's what I was referencing. Nobody got it but Ed. Justin, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm here. I'm multitasking between different things, but I'm still here. I'm still listening.
You can chime in.
Are we still talking about bees?
I got no clue what we're talking about right now.
Why not?
Probably something dying since Ulysses doing a lot of the talking.
I'm not focused, so it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
I'm trying.
We got focused, Pamela. I'm going to talk about an app. It's a good climate change story. Well, helping people adjust to climate change. And this is an app, and it's helping the farmers in Kenya to find the right seeds for the right environment. All right. The old screen share.
So.
There we go. And this is a new app launched in Kenya on June 10th, and it could help millions of farmers adapt to climate change by offering information on the best seeds for changing growing conditions, agricultural experts say. Here you go, apps. We're talking third world to a large extent, and they've got their phones, they got their smartphones. And it's really changing people's lives. Agriculture accounts for 70% of Kenya's employment, according to U.S. government figures. So an increase in food production would dramatically improve living standards. Now they got something called the BEGUE Choice app, first tool of its kind in sub-Sahara Africa, and it was developed by a 25-year-old Kenyan software engineer. And that word means seed choice in Swahili. It comprises an online database, which is also available via website and can be expanded to other countries if its rollout proves successful. The platform provides information on specific characteristics of the different kinds of seeds for drought tolerance and the best altitude and area for growing a particular crop. If a farmer in the mid-altitude range of Macaulay County, for example, searches for drought-tolerant corn varieties to plant during the rainy season, the app will show him 5 kinds of seeds the grower could buy, which would do well in the area. The online database, containing more than 200 crop varieties, is backed by seed producers who believe it will help drive business. And more than half of Kenya's 44 million people own a cell phone. And the app's developers expect 2 million people to start using the tool over the next 7 months. They eventually want to provide small farmers with up-to-date market information on crop and fertilization prices rather than just data about seeds. There you go.
Cool.
You know, that kind of thing, apps. I'm sure American farmers have apps. You know, maybe you stick something in the ground. You find out how much soil is in the ground. You find out the chemical concentrations. Maybe you got to add fertilizer, maybe not. This is really revolutionizing agriculture, along as just about every other occupation.
Yeah. Till Monsanto designs a seed that will just grow in anything. Cannot be killed.
Alright.
So what about the people versus the coal baron?
I knew you were gonna pick that.
What do you think about this guy? This guy is like a piece of work, isn't he?
You know, I was gonna start out with a positive story about a businessman. A Japanese guy putting $20 billion into solar energy in Indiana. A nice positive story.
Well, let's
Ulysses, you gotta go right to the evil coal baron.
Negative and work to the positive.
Did you see? I'm digressing now. Did you see that the Dutch people just sued their own government for not doing enough about climate change and won?
Yes, it's going to be wonderful. I heard it's going to. Hopefully, it'll have ramifications.
Hopefully, we can do that here.
Hopefully, we can do it here too. But you have to fight Koch brothers, which is just about impossible.
We beat the Koch brothers with that stupid pipeline thing.
Not done yet. It's still getting built tomorrow.
Well, hey, have you ever heard of Dan Blankenship, Ulysses?
Yeah, he's a
by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, he has his offices down in Roanoke.
I've got, now I'm not going to read this whole thing. I've got 13 pages of a New York Times story telling you basically what an evil fucker this guy is.
He really is.
He really is.
He really is.
That's about the best way to describe him. And I'm just going to read a couple of parts. Don Blankenship knows exactly what he wanted during the years he ran Mesa Energy, once the 6th largest coal company in the United States. Excuse me?
It's called pronounced Massey.
Massey. Okay. He had specific and emphatic ideas about how to operate mines, how to treat employees, and how to deal with regulators. And when he issued instructions, he wanted them followed to the letter. Nice example of what this guy is and how much fun it would be to work for him. His former maid, who is suing him, Deborah May, discovered that when she was dispatched one morning to McDonald's to pick up an egg and cheese biscuit for his boss. Millionaire buying his food at McDonald's. Okay. When she arrived, it had bacon on it. Big problem. Mr. Blankenship flung the bacon across the room, grabbed her wrist and said, "Anytime I tell you anything, I want you to do exactly what I tell you to do, and nothing more and nothing less." Because he's an evil fucker.
He's an evil fucker. You don't kill 29 people to make profit by being a nice guy.
He's got his apparently a plaque that says "Do as Don says." Another thing he did when judges, you have these judges, and occasionally the judges believe the law applies to everyone. And so there were a couple of judges that issued that he lost cases against. Now I'm not going to put up with that. So he mounted $1 million campaigns against both these judges, and they were beaten for re-election.
Yeah, because West Virginia, they elect their judges.
Yeah.
They're not appointed like they are in the state of Virginia. And that, I think, is a big problem, because if they're elected, then they've got to appease the populace.
Yeah.
And that way they can be corrupted.
Yeah.
I mean, not to say that once they're appointed they can't be corrupted, but at least it's, unless you're a total fuck up, you won't lose your job. I don't know which way's better, but if you piss somebody off in an elected state, in the state that elects their judges, you're going to lose. So you can't do right. You can't fight big companies. You can't fight.
If judges are elected, then there's no separation of powers. So ours are, are put in place, and unless you're unless you really do something wrong, you have your job until you turn 70 here as a judge. And so it's nothing to do with elections or anything like that. So there's less corruptibility there. So
you have an age cutoff there? We don't have an age cutoff here. They just have to die.
Right.
Especially Supreme Court judges, they're there for life. Which may not be good, but
70, because people actually retire and have pensions and like and whole universal healthcare and stuff like. You're encouraged to chill out in the final years of your life.
Yeah, same thing here in Canada. They judges have a mandatory retirement age at 75. Then once they're done that, they can retire, or some of them even try to go back into and practice law.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think
the
they actually
judges here.
You're just guaranteed to 70.
Supreme judges here have like 3/4 of the year off, and then they vote and hear complaints and stuff, and then they have 3/4 of the year off, and then they're there for life.
Most judges do pretty well on the bench. I don't know that there's any really poor judges. That's kind of a payoff almost. With a lot of times it's political. You have a guy at a law firm, partners in that, and then they'll put somebody up to be a judge. And it's really a very political process.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be a lawyer for a while before you can even. You've got to get known on and that's kind of the vetting process here. Is before you become a judge, you're a lawyer for many years, and then that's your record. How well do you do
judges
cases?
Go unopposed.
You're still in Texas, right, Patrick? Yeah. So they're elected judges, aren't they?
I believe so. Yeah.
I think so.
But
I think.
Have you seen John Oliver's pitch on electing judges? You should really watch it.
I think so. I think I recall.
What was it?
You'd learn a lot. No, it's like 15 minutes long. I can't summarize it. Suffice it to say, no, you gotta watch it.
John Oliver's pretty brilliant. If you get HBO, he has a show once a week. And
all of his stuff is on YouTube though, so you don't have to have HBO. You just gotta watch. If you want to watch his rants, go on YouTube.
Oh, okay, even better.
We don't have to worry about rants. We got Ulysses. Come on.
Well, they're taking down the flag, and I'm kind of proud of that. Except for why Governor Haley doesn't order a governor executive order from the governor's mansion to take down that flag. I don't understand it. But
it's pure politics, and it comes down to votes.
She wants to get reelected again.
That's
guessing.
Exactly right. That's her question.
I got bolt cutters. I can go up there and cut that bolt off. I mean, just ask me. That's what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk to Pamela. I'm like, what does it look like from a foreign nation? Do you even see what we see on TV? What's happening since last week?
I haven't had a television for about 4 years, and I didn't really watch it when I did have one, so I don't know.
Okay. Well, I mean,
that's what
Yahoo
the internet's
News.
for.
We had another mass shooting in a church, and the guy was a a racist, and they found pictures of the Confederate battle flag with him. You know, that's another thing. It's just a symbol, but a lot of people have been fighting for it because they believe it's history and they want it up. State-sponsored houses. So
I have seen snippets about that, but I haven't read extensively. But you just reminded me. There's I have to look up. Yeah, I'm getting it for you, darling. Hang on. Yeah. There was a television show that Michael Moore did many years ago. He did a couple of TV shows, and
he had a good few shows.
yeah, and one of the episodes they were looking at laws that should have been abolished, but no one had gotten around to it. So one of the states, I'd have to look it up, but one of the states still had slavery. So it was still legal.
Mississippi actually still had slavery.
Yeah, I mean, that's right.
They never actually made the amendment to the state's constitution, and so a lawyer was going through something and noticed, and was like, "Wait a minute, this isn't right." So he did it. So he filed it, and he finally got
it removed. Yeah.
But Michael Moore took a bunch of white slaves with black masters through the town, and we're showing them, hey, this is completely legal. What are you going to do about it? So I thought that was hilarious.
I love Michael Moore.
Yeah. So it's probably with the whole flag thing. I know because we were talking privately about it, and you were saying how embarrassing and all that, but it was just something they hadn't got around to. I don't,
you have a toddler, and you have to watch your back all the time. So I understand. And B, it's probably a minor story.
No, the USA hadn't got around to getting rid of the flag.
No, the Southern.
I had a couple friends in high school who had that flag on their bedroom walls.
Yeah, I mean it's a common thing in the South. You don't see it hardly anywhere else. But in the southern.
This one's in Nebraska.
Southeastern.
That's technically the north, but whatever.
Wow. So see that in rural areas, which I don't understand because Nebraska. I don't even know if it was a state.
Nebraska's home to
1860s.
Nebraska's home to one of the famous places for the Underground Railroad. And in fact, it's an actual underground part of the Underground Railroad. I can't remember the name of the actual place. It's like John something. But there's a log cabin.
John Brown.
I don't know. Maybe there's a log cabin in like Nebraska City, and it's the oldest still standing structure in the state.
Bloody Kansas.
But there's a tunnel that goes below it out to a creek, and that's where they hid the slaves on the way north.
The Underground Railroad.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't like. If you watch the Nightly Show with Larry Wilmore, you'll understand the black perspective of why you don't say the N-word and why the rebel flag is offensive. If you're watching the show from overseas, and Justin, I'm sure you get some of it from Canada TV. Justin?
A large part of the problem is you have people, a lot of white people mostly, all white people, and they only see the world from their own eyes, through their own eyes. So they see that flag or any other flag, and they don't understand adequately why it upsets other people. Because to them, it may represent their tradition. Maybe they had an ancestor who died in the Civil War, and maybe they got a picture of their great-great-grandfather, and they're wearing a Confederate outfit.
Just because your great-great-grandfather died fighting for slavery doesn't mean you have to be for slavery.
Exactly right.
Well, I mean, they don't see it as slavery; they see it as a independent state. I mean, the whole thing was technically,
it's
in the Confederacy's Constitution that black people are less than whites, but it's this whole notion of independence, of being free of a centralized government to do whatever you want. That's why.
See, in like 5th grade for the Civil War history, we were taught that it was just to free slaves. And in 8th grade, we were taught that no, it was about states' individual rights. And then I just read some article about some historian who's like, no, it has nothing to do with states' individual rights. It has everything to do with freeing slaves. And
Well, you
I
cut
don't
out
know
there.
who's right, but
Well, Lincoln
I'm not
fought.
historian.
Lincoln fought the war to preserve the Union. That was his job as the president. Freeing the slaves was always going to be about slaves, because states were expanding. The southern states wanted to keep slavery going because it was very profitable for the wealthy to have the institution of slavery. Not only to use free labor, but also to trade and keep it going. I mean, just to keep it going. And we knew it was wrong. England had banned slavery. Europe had banned slavery. Everybody knew it was wrong, especially all the modern. That's what it really boils down to. It was an economic thing, and it was a brutal institution that finally, and we had to lose over 500,000 people to do it.
At least your slavery history, the history of slavery, I should say, is taught in school. I didn't learn about ours until like 2 years ago.
I know, that's sad.
Do you know about Australia? What we did? 150 years?
Well,
Okay.
and you treat they treated the Aborigines as
Not even. Yeah. No,
subhuman.
we got taught that, but they went to the South Sea Islands, so Vanuatu and around there. They took about 6,000 islanders, brought them over to Queensland, the state that I live in, to plant the sugarcane, enslaved them for a decade, and then when the sugarcane was finished, rounded up some indigenous Aborigines with them because they couldn't tell the difference, which is disgusting in and of itself, and sent a lot of them back. And when they decided, there was a few sick people on one of the boats or something, so they sank the boat to get rid of it. So there's 20 people died. So there's indigenous Australians that have been sent back there, and they're in Vanuatu, and all the South Sea Islanders are over here. We weren't taught any of this. This all happened. So the mistreatment of the indigenous Australians was 200 years ago, just over, 220 or so years ago. And the enslavement of the South Sea Island people was 150 years ago, and that's only coming out now. And so the Queen is still making money, because we're still part of the Commonwealth. The Queen's still making money off that sugar cane. Yeah.
I don't think you need another reason to hate the Queen.
I thought the Queen was broke.
No, she's not broke.
She's one of the richest women in the world.
She doesn't have to work.
Doesn't she own all the fishing rights to the North Sea or some weird thing like that?
When I was in Britain, I couldn't believe how much they worship the royals over there.
They love the royals. They love the royals like we like the Kardashians, and I don't understand that.
My commentary was not appreciated, I can tell you.
Well, let's face it. You're poor old England. You lost all your colonies. You had to rely on the United States, to come in and save them in World War II, blah, blah, blah. Okay, what the heck do they have to cheer about? They got Downton Abbey. Okay, they got a couple of television shows.
It's Downton. Downton.
I love Absolutely Fabulous and Red Dwarf. They're two of my
And wait
favorite
a minute. Wait a minute. Doctor Who?
Yeah, right, yeah. No,
Mr. Bean's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they've got really good television. If I lived in England, I'd probably
I'll
own
tell
the
you
TV.
what. The best thing I've seen, except for Doctor Who, is that Orphan Black.
I haven't seen that one.
Oh my gosh, it's really good. That's why it involves human cloning. It's like an alternate world. Like in the 70s, we were able to clone people, and like they'd be our age now, or not 70s, probably the 80s. Everybody froze up, but Ed, you've been watching it.
Yeah.
The Queen is only worth $550 million.
It's more than I'm worth.
It's not more than the richest person in the world.
Yeah, she's not the rich. I guess she's not the richest woman in the world by far. Oprah Winfrey.
Oprah's got more money than she does.
And J.K. Rowling is the richest woman in Britain, isn't she? She's
Probably. I don't know. There's
Yeah.
some businesswoman, I'm sure.
No, that's the author of Harry Potter,
Yes.
which I
And
only got
she-
around to reading. Yeah, for the first time.
Have you read all the books?
Brilliant. Yes.
She kills kids off, man. What kind of woman does that?
Don't
Kills
spoil
them
it for
all
people.
off and then.
Okay,
I-
Harry Potter is not a book about a kid who discovers he
He
has
lived under the
powers and
stairs.
goes to a thing. No, yeah, he's a kid that's under the stairs and has gone crazy and he's
He lives under
dreaming
the
of all
stairs.
these things.
Everybody thinks he's crazy. He gets picked on all his life. When he gets to be in his late teens, a revolution happens and everybody knows dies. So that's more like
He's a kid with delusional fantasies.
it's more like the Tale of Two Cities than some childhood book to me. I mean, okay.
It's not a children's book. Like when you get to about book 5, blimey, I was scared.
Ooh, blimey.
They're not children's books. They start off that way, and then it gets a bit dark and serious. But I really loved the way she wrapped it all up. I thought she did it.
Yeah,
Anyway, so
J.K. Rowling is worth $1 billion.
Well, yeah.
Harry
Okay.
Potter has grossed $7.7 billion worldwide.
I
There
wish I
got to
could
be
whistle.
women with more than $1 billion, though. $1 billion is pocket change nowadays among the super rich.
Oh yeah, that's we wipe our
You can start
backsides
an
with $1
app
billion.
company and get. You can start an app company for 3 weeks and get $1 billion for selling it.
What a sad world we live in. Human race is going.
No, it's not.
Wipe
I'm
itself
not going to
out.
let you drag us down here, Ulysses. It's a wonderful world.
It'll be
Then
a
you watch
wonderful
Jimmy
world
Stewart. Come on.
when the rich won't be so greedy, and we won't overpopulate it.
Elon Musk is not. He's not an evil fucker.
No,
Like,
I'm not saying. No, he's
you know,
going to
come
take
on.
his few followers and move to Mars, and we're all going to be stuck here. If he lives that long, which I don't think he's going to live long enough to colonize Mars. I'm not saying he's going to die personally, but I don't think we have the technology to do it yet.
Okay, before you drag us down too far, Ulysses.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I
I'm
gotta
going to
get
jump
going,
in.
fellas.
A success story.
I gotta
We
go.
got droughts.
I gotta
We got
go.
countries that are dealing with droughts.
Night,
We
Pamela.
got Australia.
Night, Patrick.
We got Israel.
Night, Justin.
Good night.
I gotta
Good
go,
night.
Ed.
Good night.
We could do this next week.
I'm not here
9
next week,
o'clock
but
next week. No.
Okay, well, whenever I get settled then.
Okay.
Good night, guys.
Night.
Okay, I'll
Night.
see. The next story I was going to jump into has to do with Pamela's Australia and how successful they've been in dealing with drought. Let the screen share again. And kind of like conditions like drought, and like we have in California and in Texas, etc. There are ways of dealing with it. It's just a matter of putting the resources behind it and getting people to make the necessary changes. And we've got Australia. Australia has had a 13-year drought, bone dry conditions they went through, and they survived. They call it the Millennium Drought, and it ended in 2009. And in the residents of Melbourne, Australia, Australia's second largest city, were using half the amount of water they had when it began. And a bunch of researchers from the United States, University of California, Irvine, went to Melbourne to figure out how they did it, how they dramatically cut water consumption, and whether their experiences could help California. And it says the short answer is salvation came from a $2,000 rainwater tank rather than a $6 billion desalination plant. As the Minion drought dragged on, authorities approved the construction of costly infrastructure projects similar to those being considered in California. But researchers found that conservation and recycling were the keys that got Melbourne through the rainless years. Melbourne residents took advantage of government rebates for home rainwater tanks to capture rain off from roofs, using it to water plants and flush toilets. The state of Victoria also changed the building code to require the tanks on all new homes. In 2009, about a third of homes were capturing free water from the sky, supplying 2% of Melbourne's portable water. The government also offered subsidies for purchase of water-efficient shower heads, toilets, and washing machines, which combined to cut Melbourne's water use by 4% a year. Since more stormwater runoff courses through the city and flows into rivers and streams, the ocean, then the residents, well, I didn't say that properly, since more storm water runoff courses through the city and flows into rivers and streams and residents use in a year, the government moved to capture and treat and reuse some runoff for irrigation. The city also ramped up use of gray water and recycled water from sewage treatment plants. The main lesson is that a lot can be done with conservation, and there are so many ways to do that. And this according to Stanley Grant, who co-authored this study, and he's an environmental engineer at UC Irvine. In Southern California, we're addicted to technology. We expect aqueducts to save us, and those days are gone. The modern-day answer for people looking to is desalination, but that is expensive and very energy intensive. Grant said some of Australia's low-tech solutions, such as rainwater tanks, would have limited utility in California's Mediterranean climate, when rain comes, if at all, during a few months in winter. The real problem is in the summer when you need the water. It has rained 6 months earlier. Capturing storm water and what Grant calls urban slobber, dry weather runoff, holds more promise. The ultimate source of urban slobber in a lot of cases is imported water. That water ends up finding its way to rivers through sewage treatment plants, over watering of lawns, washing of cars, and other activities. Seems to be a real missed opportunity. It's a year-round source, but we don't do anything to capture and reuse it. Now we'll end there. So good job, Melbourne.
You know what would save a lot more water?
What?
The banning of cotton.
Yeah. Yeah, we waste a lot of water on it.
Water in cotton production and cotton clothing. Cotton clothing is horrible.
Yes, Chelsea agrees. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. If you want to say it the way we say it, it's just Melbourne. Not Melbourne.
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 Yeah,
it's like Nolans. Not New Orleans, it's Norlands.
Oh, is it? See, I say it wrong then.
Yeah, you don't say New Orleans, it's New Orleans. You can say New Orleans, but not New Orleans.
Not
New
Orleans.
New Orleans, then you're definitely not from there.
Okay, New Orleans. I'll say it like that, and I'll think I'm from there. Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh yeah. So I've got I'm in a very dry spot of Australia. I've got a rainwater tank at this house sit. I've house sat in this area before. They've got 2 rainwater tanks at the other one, but they're at their own expense. I'd like to see it mandatory that any new homes in Australia, regardless of whether you're in a dry spot or not, has rainwater tanks. I think that just should be part of the building code. I think it's madness to be missing out on this water.
Americans could conserve just about everywhere, but conservation, at least in 2015, seems to be a dirty word. You know, people don't seem to like it. Even where I live, there's more stuff thrown away. We tried recycling. People didn't bother. What happens in the United States, it smacks you in the face. We don't do much until it absolutely smacks us in the face, like it's doing for California and parts of Texas, and then people start taking it seriously and do something.
Hey, California's not even taking it seriously. They're not even cutting back on the almond production.
They got a plan. They got a plan. The governor, they wrote down this official plan.
Their governor is a moron.
Another example, and Patrick, you mentioned cotton, and I read this story a couple of weeks ago. The Sonoran Desert in New Mexico, we get a large part of our cotton because there are cotton farmers in the Sonoran Desert who receive a subsidy from the American government so they can import water and grow cotton in a freaking desert.
That's ridiculous.
Yes, it is. The American way.
I watched a documentary about a decade ago about millet, and that sounds really boring, probably, but it was really interesting. Millet can grow anywhere, really, and for social reasons, somehow it was also for society has deemed it bird food. But I actually get an organic millet muesli, and it's ridiculously expensive considering that it's just millet. But to get it for human grade or something, you could just about grow it out of cement. It's crazy. Why? And they were saying, oh, we're going to have to farm millet everywhere, and this is a decade ago. What happened? I don't see any millet. Anyway, that's just a millet rant I had going.
I've been doing a lot of research on varying threads lately.
What's that South American? I think it's a grain. Begins with a Q.
Quinoa.
Yeah, doesn't that grow just very easily? Couldn't that be?
It grows in the Andes. It's from Peru.
I thought I read somewhere
Andes
about
are in Peru, right? Yeah.
But the point, millet is very similar to rice. It's actually a bit more nutritious, if anything, and it grows easier. So why aren't we changing, rice crops over to millet?
Actually, so speaking of rice and quinoa, quinoa is in such high production in such high demand that farmers who grow quinoa used to save some for them to eat, for their families to eat. Now, it's better for those farmers to buy rice for their family to eat than to save quinoa to eat. So they're not getting as much nutrition as they used to be because they're getting rice instead of quinoa.
But they're getting more money. I'm sure that, makes them happy.
There is some... they're not all like fair trade. So...
Well, if consumers change their habits, it would go a long way.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a lot of organic and fair trade options here, and I didn't realise how many options Australia had, so go Australia, until I went, shopping around Europe in grocery stores. And I'd be asking, where's the fair trade stuff? And they're like, what? I have to say it about 5 times before someone would say, fair trade. Oh, right. Yeah, I don't know. You have to go to a specialty store for that. Whereas we just have this kind of stuff, yeah, in our regular supermarkets. We don't have to go to specialty stores. So.
Yeah, it's intermixed here. I mean, sometimes there's if you're in a certain supermarket, there might be all in one spot, but in most supermarkets, it's just sporadic.
Yeah, it's the same thing in Canada too. We have specialty stores, but we also have 1 or 2 aisles dedicated within the big chain superstores for organic stuff and free trade.
Fair trade, not free trade.
It's not going to happen with the current generation, but there's so much information. Like, if you wanted to buy something, you want to know about fair trade. I get my tea from an online tea store, and you can find sources online by simply looking up fair trade, doing a little bit of investigation to make sure that what they're saying is true. And I think increasingly you're going to see more people, particularly more younger people, and particularly more, I think, young mothers are learning more about giving their children proper nutrition and coming up with better shopping habits. And I think that's mostly the young mothers like Pamela and others, perhaps. And so
I'm an old mother, and I think that that's true of older mothers. No, it's true. I'm getting to the end of my fertility cycle. I think I see a lot of young mothers, and not all of them, so don't send me hate mail, but I do see a lot of young mothers with their kids at McDonald's. My daughter, well, if she might choose to go to McDonald's later on when she's an adult, but I will never take her. Just as
I haven't been to McDonald's in at least a year.
I will say, I think I've said this before in here, I hadn't been to McDonald's for years. I went to McDonald's in Abu Dhabi because I went to a pizza pasta place first, and they weren't serving me because when men came in, they kept serving the men ahead of me, and I was getting really hungry, so I went next door and tried McDonald's, and they served people in the order that they entered. So thank you, McDonald's, for feeding me in Abu Dhabi and not leaving me to starve because I'm female.
what?
Yeah. No, I mean, they would have served me if I was I was sort of the next female in line, but when men come in, they serve the men first.
Oh, that's okay. Now I got it. Arabian country, Muslim country.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, but McDonald's served me, so that was good.
Well, maybe
I don't know what.
Optimistic, but the information is there, the resources are there. Sooner or later, I think people will make better choices. It just not happen as quickly as we'd like to see it. All right. Would you like to see a hobbit home? A tiny little hobbit home from Tree Hugger. And the page is not available. What are you talking about?
You don't have the full URL in that link.
Oh, well, okay, I'm gonna have to well, this is the internet, so I can go on to Tree Hugger. Okay, that's where I saw it. Good old Tree Hugger. Here we go.
It's a house made out of a redwood stump.
Basically, yes. Basically,
actually, I don't think it's a redwood. I think it's
it's a tree stump, it looks like. There you go. The island of Hida Gwiai, Gwiai. No idea what country that's in. There you go. Now, the one thing, I see he's got it hooked up. He's got a heater there. You get some electricity. I don't see any indoor plumbing. I don't see a stove of any kind. Maybe he's got something.
It's not a house, it's a place to sleep.
Yeah.
It's a bedroom.
Yes, exactly right. It is basically, an interesting, neat-looking bedroom. All right. Pamela's taking a nap. She's just listening. All right. What do we want to talk about? Well, we can go to Alaska. Alaska not doing so well on the climate change front. Oh man, Scientific America, site under maintenance. Sorry for the inconvenience. Well, I guess I won't be screen sharing it. But in Alaska, in the past 60 years, Alaska has warmed more than twice as fast as the rest of the country, with average temperatures up by nearly 3 degrees Fahrenheit. By 2050, temperatures are projected to climb an additional 2.5 degrees Fahrenheit, with the Arctic region seeing the most dramatic increase. That's an awfully big increase in a fairly short period of time. And one problem is these rising temperatures are expected to increase wildlife fires in Alaska, just as they have in the rest of the U.S. They did have a chart, which I obviously can't show you, and the chart shows that the number of large wildfires over the last 65 years suddenly increased in the 1990s, and in the 2000s saw nearly twice as many large wildfires as in the 1950s and 60s. In the Arctic region, the number of large wildfires increased nearly tenfold in the 2000s compared to the 1950s and 60s, and only 3 years in the 50s and 60s saw large wildfires, but there have been 33 since the year 2000. The area burned in large wildfires is increasing yearly. In just 2 years, 2004 and 2005, wildfires burned a larger area than in 15 years from 1950 to 1964. Particularly, there's been a dramatic increase in wildfires larger than 10,000 acres. And Alaska's wildfire season is now 40% larger than it was in the 1950s. Rising temperatures across Alaska have been concurrent with the rise in the number and size of Alaskan wildfires. The amount of area burned in Alaskan wildfires is projected to double by 2050 and triple by 2010. Of course, they have, I wonder what's her name, Sarah Palin. I wonder what Sarah Palin has to say about climate change in Alaska. All the wildfires. All right. Moving on. I believe I have another story here. Kind of save that one. All right, we can talk about how Israel is doing better and how well they've done in addressing their drought problems. And I can actually screen share it. Yeah. Even at night, the ground of Israel's Avara desert pulsates with heat. For decades, the vast expanse of bleach hills looked like a mountain biker's paradise and a farmer's torment. With only about an inch of precipitation per year, not even Israeli vegetation had a chance to grow there, but that slowly changed in the mid-1960s. The new Israeli pioneers didn't come for the soil or the weather, but farming was vital to staking out the young states' claim to land along the Jordanian border. They grew roses when others said it was impossible. They created naturally air-conditioned greenhouses by setting up wet curtains, honeycombed walls that allowed water to seep through slowly. They planted flowers in trenches of volcanic ash instead of sandy soil. Later they switched to dates and peppers using an Israeli-invented drip irrigation system. And it has become a virtual agricultural Eden. Rows of greenhouses stretch across the land, harboring everything from apricots to mangoes, avocados to pomegranates. Other crops are growing outside with plastic stretched over them to reduce evaporation. This narrow strip of land along the Jordanian border produces 65% of Israelis' vegetable exports, mainly tomatoes and peppers, and helps feed the Jewish state itself. It's the most productive salad bowl in the Middle East. Israelis are turning seawater into tap water, pioneering new types of irrigation and reusing wastewater at the highest rate of any country in the world. Last year, despite having the driest year on record, the country recorded a surplus of water. As climate change creates more severe patterns of weather, Israeli technology and ideas are increasingly being adapted around the world. Israel is very much a beta test site for solving these problems in a small country. And this is Glenn Yogo, founder of the Financial Innovation Lab at the California-based Milken Institute. Drip irrigation, desalination, wastewater recycling, aquifer remediation. These are problems that can be tested on a global laboratory that Israeli is and scaled elsewhere. As with other parts of the world, however, policies intrude on the narrative here. Palestinians claim that Israel is taking more than its prescribed amount of water from shared aquifers. Skip over the political stuff. Israel has also been able to wring more water out of its resources because, in essence, it only has one hand on the spigot. It has water authority that sets aside both policy and pricing for the whole country. Many other countries, including the United States, have a tangle of federal, state, and local jurisdictions that control water issues. And I will stop there. Let's see. I'm going to take a look at stories I had in the lineup. I might have had something else besides environmental stories. Talked about the key apps.
I didn't get to watch TWIS yesterday, so I don't know if it was covered. But have you seen the school kids who invented condoms that detect STDs?
No.
No. Okay.
No, I did not.
That sounds really scary.
Yeah, when they come in contact with an STD, they change color, so it's like a glow-in-the-dark condom, but you don't want it to glow in the dark because that means it's found something.
Okay,
and then it's different colors for different detections. And it was invented by 11 to 16-year-olds or something in some science competition.
Okay. Kind of walk me through the process here. You're putting it on. Okay.
Are you finding it?
Now, at what point are you going to notice that it's glowing? At what point?
But if you've got a condom on anyway, I mean, you're using a condom to prevent STDs and possibly pregnancy. So if you're wearing a condom, it doesn't really matter if it glows that it's found an STD because you've got the condom. That's what it's for. But at least you know.
Yeah, but they're only some percentage effective.
7? What?
No, some.
No,
SOME.
they're like 97% effective in preventing pregnancy. Yeah, I know. Well, it's better than nothing, but at least it's like, hey, good job that you used a condom with this person.
It'll certainly tell you.
I suppose
Pamela.
you can notify the partner that they're having an issue.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
I think it's brilliant. I think all condoms should be.
Well, what was the story I talked about maybe a month ago, where you can spray condoms with a substance, and then you can hang them, and it will detect pollution. So what you can do is, for instance, you can hang condoms along a river, and they'll start to glow if that chemical picks up pollutions. So it's a cheap way of finding out that your river is polluted.
Really?
Yep. Actual science.
Couldn't you just spray that substance on anything? Does it have to be a condom?
Maybe condoms are nice and absorbent or something. I don't know. In fact, what they also did.
I hope they're not absorbent.
I don't know. No clue why they picked condoms. No clue why. Maybe they're readily available.
Were they using them like wind socks?
You know what? I completely got it wrong. It wasn't condoms. It was tampons.
Oh.
Because that's
Tampons
better.
they sprayed.
Because that's better, right?
Yeah.
Well, that
Sorry.
makes a little bit more sense.
Sorry, it was tampons, not condoms. Right
Same
idea,
hole.
wrong sex.
Same area.
And I just thought it was brilliant that it was, kids that were inventing this because, they're being conscientious about their future escapades.
Since you're here, Pamela, although your child is distracting you as you're attempting to eat, I got a story I can ask you. We can talk about, and that's the use of embryos. The industry for using embryos has become so successful that there are now a lot of leftover embryos unused, and there are some people in the United States are concerned that this is going to create a problem. What do you do with your leftover embryos? You just throw them out? I don't know what the shelf life is.
So do you mean with IVF? Is that what you're saying? Like they're doing IVF, they've created a bunch of embryos, they've only used so many that have been successful. They don't want any more children, but is that where the embryos are coming from?
Well, they're talking about donated embryos. Donated embryo transfers nearly doubled from the year 2009 to the year 2013. $12,000 or more per cycle. What else we got here? Trying to jump ahead to there's no national statistics on what happens with these leftover condoms. If we ask well, let's see, let me back up. The embryos have the greatest chance of developing into a healthy baby are used first, and the excess are frozen. By 2002, the survey found there were 400,000 frozen embryos. By 2011, 612,000. And now there may be more than 1 million of these frozen embryos.
Is that where they're coming from, IVF?
They just say donated embryos. And they're used. They're used for infertile fertilization, IVF. Yes, that's what they're being used for.
What do you mean by donated embryos? So say someone someone has their own eggs and sperm, from husband and wife, whatever, and they make embryos and make their own. Are they then donating the discarded embryos that they don't need to people who don't have the eggs and sperm? And so they're actually giving birth to someone else's biological child. Is that what they're donating? I'm just trying to figure out where they're coming from. That's a lot of embryos.
Well, they've donated. Let's see. In one case, it was a woman. And she had 6 good quality frozen 6-day-old embryos to donate. She donated to another family. In some storage facilities, hundreds of thousands of embryos are preserved in silver tanks of liquid nitrogen. Some are in storage for cancer patients to preserve their chance of having a family after chemotherapy. Most are leftovers from the booming assisted reproduction industry. Assisted reproduction industry.
Right. So I understand, people having chemotherapy and radiation, and that if they don't have children before that happens, and then they want to have children later, they'll have to use someone else's ingredients, right? But are that many people having fertility issues? What's going on? Why are that many people?
Many couples see their embryos as virtual children.
Have I seen Modern Society? What do you mean?
All the environmental factors, the laziness, the et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Looking through this, I'm not really clear, but it just seems to me maybe it's people who want to use IVF. They store them. It's donated. So these are people who are donating their embryos for other people to use. So it would sound like it's just simple donations. And
how many did you say there were?
Now over 1 million there may be.
So I think it's crazy to discard something that much time, effort, and let's face it, money has gone into to make.
How long will they stay viable?
I don't think they should. I mean, as long as they're frozen with liquid nitrogen, I'm pretty sure that's fine. I know there was a story a few years ago. A woman, she had technically they're twins, right? Because the embryo split or whatever. She had them 8 years apart, so that was fine. I mean, as long as they stay frozen, I think they should be fine.
Let's see.
We've already got 1 million. I mean, how long until there's 2 million?
A couple of years, probably. And that's maybe what's raising the question. Might be some of these facilities, they've got so many, it may be costing them too much money, and they say, okay, what are we going to do with these? They're simply not being used.
Well, maybe, I mean, I understand people wanting to have their own biological offspring, but if they're having reproductive issues, maybe they'll just have to use some of the ones that are already there because they're already there to try and save on resources.
Here's an interesting case when Carla Dunstan, an emergency room doctor, found out she had cancer in 2010. She asked her partner she was dating to contribute sperm so she could freeze some embryos for later use. He agreed, and they created 3 embryos before she started her cancer treatment. They consulted a lawyer the day they visited the fertility clinic, but never signed a written contract. Soon after, he ended the relationship. When Dunstan finished treatment and wanted to become pregnant, he would not let her use the embryos. After 4 years of litigation, the appeals court ruled that Dr. Dunstan, she could use the embryos based on an oral agreement the two had made when the embryos were created, and her scumbag ex-partner is appealing. Yeah, lots of legal issues here, at least in the United States.
This is why it's always good to have a relationship agreement.
Yep.
Big Bang Theory reference? Contract.
That's what I said. Okay, Sheldon. Yeah, I don't know. It's easy for me to. Well, it's not. It's not. It's. I don't know. I can't say what other people should do. I mean, I got pregnant on the 3rd date with the gardener, but so obviously I don't have any issues. So I feel terrible for people who do have issues. But yeah, if there's 1 million sitting there, maybe there needs to be a moratorium on creating more. until some of them get used up.
Here's a part, another part of the story. We have the National Embryo Donation Center in Tennessee, which is endorsed by the Christian Medical Association. Places embryos only with heterosexual couples married at least 3 years, and only after a home study exploring their readiness to be parents, as is required for families adopting a child. We think the embryos deserve the same level of protection as children who are being adopted. But the American Society for Reproductive Medicine, along with most doctors and abortion rights supporters, prefers the term embryo donation. We in the society really strongly advocate the term should be embryo donation, because adoption is a term for a live child. We're not here to save embryos, we're here to build families. So I guess if it ever came to the issue of can they dispose of these frozen embryos, even if they wanted to, there are some religious organizations like the one I just mentioned who will undoubtedly sue and say no. These embryos represent humans.
Now,
Isn't it humans that represent embryos?
They're not humans. I mean, yet, you know, but I do think it's a crime to, I mean, I use that term loosely, but to waste them. But we shouldn't be making more either. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. You can't tell people, no, you can't have your own biological child because there's too many, you know, frozen. You'll have to use up these first. But that's the rational thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's strange. When I looked at those numbers, 1 million, and it's increasing. I mean, it jumped up from like 200,000 to 600,000 over the course of maybe 4 or 5 years, and it's now seemingly doubled, and it sounds like the curve is going up.
So why
maybe more and more people or couples, for whatever reason, are donating. They're fertilizing and creating the embryos and then having them frozen for later use.
Yeah, I understand some people, if they want to wait. Oh, sorry, you go, Justin. What were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say, I read an article not too long ago about a lot women in Canada are now more educated than men are. They're delaying having children by working in the careers or by having more education. And one of the ways to kind of compensate for that is they're freezing embryos. A lot of companies like Facebook or Google are actually offering that as a medical benefit to, you know, freeze the embryos. So I imagine if there's a supply and demand type thing, maybe there's a market for, I don't know, embryos. Because I'm just curious as to who are these people that are donating these embryos. I'm just curious as to the profile of that type of person that would be doing that.
Oh, a percentage, and I don't know what percentage it is, are people simply storing them for future use by themselves.
Okay, so it's people themselves storing it. It's not other people donating it.
But it's also people who are doing it so they're available for implantation for other couples who want kids.
So are they donating them free of charge, or are they getting some type of monetary compensation? Or some other type of compensation?
Donated, so I'm guessing they're not getting money.
Okay, I know the word donated sometimes can be a bit weird. In Canada, if you donate blood, it's an altruistic thing, you don't get anything. But in the States, if you quote-unquote donate blood, you get some type of compensation. I don't know if you call it
you sell your plasma in the States, you donate your blood.
Oh, that's what it is? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It doesn't sound like people are getting cash money to do this. Sperm, right? Sperm banks. There you're receiving cash money. But for these embryos, these fertilized eggs, I think it's just donation, and it's people are storing them and they're not using them, or they're storing many and not using them. And that can also lead into another future problem which is pre-screening embryos, where you examine the embryo, you take a look at, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 embryos. Maybe you've got breast cancer that runs in your family. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at the embryos and you're going to look at them genetically, look at the genome, and find an embryo that isn't predisposed for cancer or whatever the disease happens to be, and that's the embryo you implant. And then what do you do with the others? Probably destroy them. And again, you have that question. A lot of people, mostly religious people, say you can't do that. That's just like an abortion. Close some links. Got a million links open. And see if what else I had. If anything to talk about. All right. Yeah, okay. I don't know if Pamela, if you're there. This is this is a quasi fun study. I say it's fun because I'm very skeptical about its conclusions. Got it in the chat area. I will screen share it. Okay. This is from our friend Science Daily. And it's the source is Springer, whatever the heck, that's probably some sort of curated magazine. And it says, men think they are math experts, therefore they are. More men pursue science and engineering jobs because they readily overestimate how good they are in sums or math. Just because more men...
I suck at maths. I suck at maths, but I still like to engineer shit.
Well, you don't delude yourself. You didn't go in. You didn't seek the career as because you deluded yourself to thinking that you were great at math, which is a suggestion here.
I can engineer like the best of them, but I don't know maths. That's what I have a computer for. To compute.
Okay, the computer uses the algorithms. Well, it says here the difference is men think they are much better at math than they really are. Women, on the other hand, tend to accurately estimate their arithmetic process, and the suggestion is that's why more men just ignore what their ability actually is and simply go into research and science, etc. Sizable gap between the number of men and women who choose to study and follow careers in the STEM fields of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics in the use as true in the U.S. This is true even though women outperform their counterparts on mathematical tests in elementary schools. This particular study examined how people's biases and previous experiences about their mathematical abilities make them more or less likely to pursue math-related courses. And this was a study conducted by 122 undergraduates and 184 other participants. Across the two studies, it was found that men overestimate the problems they solve, while women accurately reported how they will fare. Gender gaps in science, technology, and engineering and maths are not necessarily the result of women underestimating the abilities, but rather due to men overestimating their abilities. despite assumptions that realism and objectivity are always best in evaluating the self and making decisions, positive illusions and math abilities may be beneficial to women pursuing math careers in science. Now I'm going to stop there. There you go. That's why women aren't pursuing math, STEM research careers, because they're not overestimating their math abilities. Women should be overestimating their math abilities and should, despite that, go into STEM research.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I've always been all right at maths. I didn't know that that was an issue.
Well,
Hey, women were the first computers.
Women were the first computers. It was a woman that I only found that out recently. It was a woman that hand wrote the code that sent dudes to the moon.
Yeah, and she was like 23 or something.
Yeah. The stack of paper was
Taller than she was, yeah.
Well, even going back to Lady Ada, she's one of the first computer scientists, I think someone said.
Yep.
More positive role models.
Ada Fruit Industries.
Gotta help.
My ex-girlfriend, when she started her computer science, and say there's 100 people in her class, there's maybe 20 women. By the time that she graduated, there's about 5, if that.
Yeah. In my master's IT, there were 60 people in my class, 57 were male.
Mm-hmm.
So myself and 2 other ladies. That was it.
I think it would probably be a little bit more professional or a little bit better ratio in a master's program versus an undergrad program, because by the time you've gotten to that, you've kind of weeded out a lot of the gender-related issues, hopefully. They're still there, but...
I thought that the reason there were so few women in my class was more because we're at the breeding age, instead of doing a master's degree, women are having babies. That's something that you can't pass on to the male. Some women can do degrees at the same time as having a baby, but not all of them.
Cough, cough.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you think that might be? Do you think that's the primary problem? Although, women can put off having a baby. They can have into the mid-30s.
Yeah.
They can start in their career when they're in their 20s and establish themselves, and then have a baby.
Yeah, that's what I did.
That shouldn't stop them from pursuing a career in science.
No, it shouldn't. But I'm just saying. Justin was saying that the difference was what 20 out of 100, and I was saying it was like 3 out of 6. So it whittles down even further when you get into postgrad, or that's just been my observation personally anyway. And I would think that that's part of it. You might want to do the postgrad, but you have a family instead. And don't attack me here, but it's true that a lot of men don't like their women to be more educated or earn more money than they do. So if they do their undergrad and they're in a relationship, they might be talked out of it by their husband.
I would hope my partner was smarter than me.
You know what? It really all depends on the couple. I remember I dated somebody probably about 5 or 6 months ago. She was a teacher, 2 master's degrees, literally made twice as much as me. It was the first time that's happened, and I found it kind of refreshing to have somebody that was an equal or greater than what I had achieved, because there's a lot of learning opportunities and growth and development for me, right?
Absolutely, yes. You're one of the rare ones, though. A lot of men feel threatened by that. They want to be the breadwinner. They want to be the man. They want to be the one that fixes everything and does everything. It's the whole primordial instincts thing, and yeah. So yeah, I wasn't saying all of them, but it a lot. So I'm just wondering if a lot of women are discouraged by their partners, and that's why you don't see them in the postgrad programs.
Is it women being discouraged or not being encouraged when they're young? Just thinking logically, we've got like 50% of our brain power we're not utilizing or we're underutilizing. So if you want to do more, if we need more scientists, we need more engineers, we need more technicians, and we got this half of the population that's completely underutilized. So it's, I mean, just logically, it makes sense. We should encourage more of the segment of the population we're not using. We got to encourage more of them, the young girls, to go into scientific fields. Encourage them more.
I would even argue that we need to, as much as I'm all for getting more kind of gender balance, but just the total population as a whole, we should be pushing more towards STEM. When I was doing some personality research on the Myers-Briggs, and I know we don't want to get even started on that, but there's maybe 10 or 12% of the population that have the analytical faculties to even be doctors, lawyers, engineers, all of those, thinker type architect trades. The other, 70 or 80% of the population don't reach that ability to think analytically. So, yeah.
12. If you're talking about PhD level, absolutely. I can, then I would say yes, that makes sense. But if you're talking about things like engineering, etc., only 12. I would say there's a much larger percentage of the population than 12%. I would guess 40%, just picking a number out of my butt, that have the capability of experimenting enough to create engineering tools, etc. And in the future, like what Patrick mentioned, there's going to be computers. You're going to have that supercomputer in the cloud that can do the number crunching and leave more people to do the creative side.
I would say that anybody, if given enough time, effort, motivation, persistence, all that good goal-setting stuff, anybody could, given the right circumstances, do anything and be anything they wanted to be. But, it's, you could take somebody who's I don't want to give an example of say a gas station attendant, and given the right education and training and ambition, they could be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever profession they want to. But it's just a certain segment of the population either is disinterested or there's no motivation for them to ever want to do that. But if everybody was a doctor or a lawyer in one of those professions, we're still going to need people to do all of those other jobs that the doctors or lawyers may not want to do.
Yeah, think of all the brain power wasted around the world. I think of Mexico, right on our border. Now, we have a problem is there's a lot of poor people in South America, Central America, Mexico. They're looking for jobs. They go north. Okay. Now we have $5-6 billion in foreign aid that we send to Israel. I'm not going to get into questioning that per se, but Mexico is right on our border. Wouldn't it make more sense to take $5 billion of that money and invest it in Mexican universities or something, so that you could get more Mexicans could become better educated and could, become entrepreneurs in Mexico, thereby reducing the immigration problem in the United States? We fight wars. We spend trillions, freaking trillions of dollars to the war in Iraq. That's just insane, absolutely insane. And think of all the money that we could have available, that we could have had available to use on, on schooling and all kinds of other stuff. We got the money. We're just pissing it away on wars and other things. I don't know.
Like I said, you should run for president. I agree with you.
I am, and my name is Bernie Sanders.
Yes. Yes. Bernie Sanders with Elizabeth Warren as the vice president.
Yeah, I wish he had a chance of winning.
Oh, he's gonna win.
Hope you're right, but I kind of would bet against it.
No, he's gonna win.
Be positive. I support him. I don't know what I sent him some money, not a whole lot of money, but I sent him some money. I support him. He's accepting only funds up to a certain dollar amount, but I don't know what his limit is, if I remember correctly.
I don't think he's accepting any donations from business.
Okay.
I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
You know, I did see Patrick or Pamela. I guess it's Patrick. You posted about Mr. Robot.
Yes. Have you seen it?
Yes.
I've never seen it. I've never even heard of it. What is it?
It's a new TV show on the USA network, which is to say the USA is a really crappy network. They have horrible shows, but this one is like stupendously awesome. It's a show about a hacker, a real life portrayed hacker. Like, they get everything right. They get the personality traits, the quirks. They get the actual like technology correct. There's no like 90s style hacker movie with like zooming through computer circuitry and all that crap. It's like what would actually go down to do this kind of stuff.
It'll only run for one season because only a small percentage of the population are intelligent enough to get the show, and then it'll be axed. Sorry.
You say that, but before the season has even started, they already renewed it for a second season.
Right, okay, that's good. Because I've had that happen with so many things. I get really into them, and it's brilliant, but, you know, you've got to be smart to understand it and appreciate it, and not enough people are. They like to veg out. Yeah, and then it's gone.
They put the pilot on YouTube, and it already has 3 million views.
Really? Right, okay, I'll check it out later.
So it's got an really interesting personality study on the guy because he's delusional. He's paranoid and delusional. And so when things happen, you're not sure if he's just a delusion or if it's actually happening.
You're ruining the story, man.
Have you seen it, Justin?
That's the whole point of the story is just. I really hope it doesn't end in a dream sequence.
Aren't they making the analogy to Fight Club?
I can't have another.
He doesn't mention Fight Club in any of the interviews I've seen for the author. It's totally a Fight Club situation without the fighting. It's a hacking Fight Club.
Okay.
It keeps you guessing.
I can't have another ending like Lost, or I'll end up in therapy or something.
Oh, Jesus.
No.
I was so.
I don't think it's going to be that bad.
That upset me, man. I'm still recovering.
All the descriptions I see of it are it's a psychological thriller, and I don't really think it's a psychological thriller. I don't know. Yeah. I thought that the pilot was episode 0, and then they were going to start the season with episode 1. But no, they started with the pilot, and I was so bummed. I was like, I've been looking everywhere for this second show, and it doesn't show up until next Wednesday. It's like, talk about it's so frustrating.
That's where my viewing habits have changed. The Netflix model, where you get a full season at one time. So you can just go right through 5, 6, 7 episodes, at night if you want to, as opposed to the traditional method of, one show a week.
Yeah, I think they should release them all at once, so I can get my damn fix already. It was released as a pilot, as like a short film. Like it's an hour and like 16 minutes long, so it's longer than any normal pilot. TV show. Like TV shows are usually like 45 minutes long to put all the commercials in there for the hour block. But it's It's so good. I really recommend it.
Does hearing about I want to know what an episode is going to be, so that I don't have to turn something on. Happened with Game of Thrones. Hadn't read the book, and there is my favorite character, one of my favorite characters, and the last episode, the last season, bang, he's dead. What? What the fuck just happened? What? So I want spoilers. I want to know what's going to happen. I do that with Orphan Black. I want to know what's going to happen so I can know if it's going to be a depressing episode so I don't have to watch it.
What? Isn't it the whole point with Game of Thrones that you know everybody's going to die? Like, everybody gets killed off, so there's no point in worrying if someone's going to die. It's like, oh, well, then stop watching it if you don't like it.
Well, it's got terrific characters, great writing, and there are some episodes that really are fantastic. And you know, you make some assumptions, or I made some assumptions, that you got a couple of characters. You got the Dragon Queen. I thought you had another guy. You got maybe 3 or 4 characters, and you figure, okay, the show is centered on these 3 or 4 characters. At least they're not, they're going to survive. And then one of them gets knocked off, and now I don't. Now I'm not going to watch any episode next season of the Game of Thrones without reading the spoilers first.
You know, you can read. Doesn't it come out as a book first?
It came out as a series of books, but it's reached the point where they've reached the end of the books, and the writer George R.
There's like there's the people who just watched Red Wedding, and then there's the people who read it first and knew what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. And so while they were watching it with people who hadn't read it, they're like, yeah, this happens.
Yeah,
I've never seen the show. I'd much rather watch a series like Mr. Robot than I would watch Game of Thrones. Mr. Robot is super realistic. I can identify with the character quite a bit.
Well, it's a hacker universe, right? Isn't that more your universe than, let's say, the fantasy universe of Game of Thrones?
Well, it's not a hacker universe. It's the real frickin' world, as far as I can tell. There's nothing in Mr. Robot that's... Yeah, but there's nothing in Mr. Robot that's fantasy. Everything's real. Everything he can do is real.
Maybe.
No, everything he can do in that show is real. There is no fake technology in that show.
Oh, yes.
At all.
That's what I've read. That's what I've read.
It's 100% real technology.
Yeah.
There's no, like, getting around encryption. There's no getting around encryption in this show. It's all, okay, this has got a password on it. How am I going to figure out what the password is? Let's ask these questions of these people and fake that I'm this thing, and I'll have an algorithm crack it out for me. That stuff's real. Hackers don't hack through encryption. They social engineer. And there are hackers that are really socially awkward. They can call someone up and pretend to be someone else and get the information they want.
My perception would be, if you're going to do something like actually writing code, you've got to be incredibly focused, and you've got to be able to stay incredibly focused for a day or more at a time. And the kind of brain that can do that, I don't want to use the word autistic or anything like that, but that kind of brain, that requires a certain kind of a brain to be able to maintain that focus for that long a period of time that's required, probably. And that might not be the same personality as someone who likes to go out partying and going to raves. I don't know. But that's just my perception. Don't know any had never socialized with any hackers, so I don't know.
There's a difference between a hacker and a computer programmer. Computer programmers don't really know how to hack. Hacking's a certain skill.
Pretty much everything that you see in the Matrix is representative of what it's really like to be a hacker. So there you go.
Okay, we're going to disregard that statement.
Don't hackers have to manipulate code in order to hack?
No.
In order to...
No. There are some people that are pure script kiddies. A script kiddie is someone who buys a pre-made program and just uses the the program is specifically made to exploit a vulnerability in some piece of software or networking protocols, and so they have the scripts and they just employ the scripts whenever they need to get through something. It's like a big macro. It does all these things all at once or in sequence to be able to get around something, so that you don't actually have to furiously be typing out stuff in the terminal to do stuff. And so those are called script kiddies. They're not true hackers. And when we say hacker, this is a computer hacker. You could also call a computer hacker a cracker, not a white guy, but someone who's cracking through code and stuff, like a true cracker. So yeah, a hacker can be a general term, but it's also there's a computer part to it.
Yeah, it doesn't have.
But
to
you can be a
apply just
hacker
to
and not ever touch a computer.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
think of hacker in the generic term as it's a lot of the times we apply it to IT and computers, but it could also be in another sense. You could be say if you were a garden hacker, you could figure out ways to plant plants which are kind of non-traditional, maybe new ways. Anyone that takes a complex system and figures out loopholes or ways or new ways of doing things or using something in a way it was not necessarily intended to do.
Yeah, anybody who can take something and make something do something that it wasn't meant to do is a hacker.
That's going to be required skill for traveling outside Earth.
Yeah, so The Martian, you've read The Martian, right?
Yeah.
In fact, I think you read it before me, way before me. You probably read it like right when it was just starting to show up on Amazon. As soon as it came out,
I got a review and I read it, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, so he would be considered a hacker. He's also an engineer, but he would also be considered a hacker.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's hacking through all this stuff to get stuff working.
The movie is coming out, but I don't know if this year or next year.
It's this November.
This November? What's the name of the
lead actor?
November
4th.
Who did they pick the lead
Matt
actor?
Damon. Matt Damon.
I don't picture him. I wonder if he's going to be snarky enough.
The trailer is out, if you want to watch the trailer. Honestly, I think everybody in the trailer is overacting, but I've been thinking about that for like every trailer I've seen. I felt like they've been overacting, and then the actual movie is all right. So I don't know.
We shall see.
Or maybe it's just the music cues that they've been giving him that's making him sound overacting. Like you're supposed to act like you're not acting, not act like you're acting.
Man, you can go back to John Wayne, gave some young actor advice, and he said basically hit your mark. Hit your mark. The camera goes on you. Basically, do what the director wants you to do. Remember your lines if you can. I think that is something you either have the genetic ability to do or you can't. Charisma in front of them.
Act?
No, act. Yes, act.
Acting is just lying with style.
Lying. I can see that. You want to call imagination. Selling people that you're this particular character. Guess that's a form of lying.
Anybody who's ever had to keep a secret is an actor.
Levels of acting ability. Okay. Let me go over to the little site, scienceisland.org. Any of these stories sound interesting you want to talk about? How about NASA lays out plans for the Europa orbiter? Let's see, we got stem cell progenitor cells that exclusively forms heart muscles.
I can't stay on too much longer. I got a staff meeting in the morning.
Okay. All out of stories. I don't know. Pamela is still available. We can end the hangout.
Looks like everybody's got to head out.
Okay. Hello, Pamela. I have no clue about next week. Justin might be on vacation. Not really sure about Dale. I know Pamela's traveling. Pamela won't be able to make a hangout for the next couple of weeks at least because she's traveling.
Where's Justin going?
So I don't know. I prefer a later start myself. And I'm going to guess at least me and Dale will have another midnight hangout. Whether Justin or anybody else will be there, I don't know. So that's what I figured for next week.
You know where Justin's going on vacation?
He is at Disney World.
Oh, really?
He's been posting pictures of him and his partner and their kids in Disney World and on the rides. Justin, I'll let you run.
Yeah, all right. Thanks for hosting another science chat, Ed. I love these. There's not too many opportunities I get to have adult conversations throughout the week, so I appreciate it.
Adult conversations? Excuse me?
Are you an elementary school teacher?
Not quite. Feels like it sometimes, though.
Are you a prison guard?
We'll go with a prison guard. Well, anyways, good night, and have a good night, everyone.
Okay, I'll see you.
Nice talking with you.
You can. I'm just hanging out. I just wanted to say good night to Pamela. It's the only reason I'm hanging around.
What forum is Justin posting photos in?
Facebook.
Okay.
I don't know if he's on Twitter or not. Erin Dunning, that's his partner. She's also on Facebook. But I don't know if they post on Twitter. I used to. When I post in terms of promoting the Hangout, getting more people to view it, if I spent more time on Twitter, built up more of a following, I would get more views. That's just a lot of work. We've had, maybe a month ago, we had 1,000 views. And a couple of weeks later, we had 500. Now we're kind of averaging about 100 or so. But it's just a lot of work to bump up the views. Same thing with the scienceisland.org. I'm getting maybe 60, 70 views a day now, which is more. But I'd really have to get it more than that, I'd really have to promote and post it on Google Plus and all over the place. That's just a lot of work.
How many views is this show getting?
I'm counting between YouTube and scienceisland.org. I'm guessing maybe about 100. It fluctuates. I can go to YouTube. This particular Hangout is not going to get a whole lot of views, I don't think, because I wasn't even sure we were going to have one. Oh, let's see. About last week, we had 86, probably some more on scienceisland.org, 100 the week before, 70. Did you get to see Dale's climb up the tower?
I saw you mention it, but I didn't get to watch the whole thing.
I put a there's links there so you can click on it and go immediately to that part of the Hangout. But the interesting thing was him putting on about 50 pounds of gear, safety gear, etc., before he started climbing up the tower. That was really amazingly intense. Okay, I'm not gonna. I don't know where Pamela is. Don't have to hang around waiting for her. So I will end the broadcast.